It's great to see you all today. I am Matt Kelley at the University of Washington Tacoma. I see familiar faces here. You may have heard me talk about this before. Hopefully I don't bore you this time. Notably, I left my notes on the table because I find that I tend to over-prepare, and then when I come, I just end up wanting to have a conversation with the audience. So I'm going to have a conversation with you, and I have far too many slides. Interesting. So I'll go through some things. At UW-T, I run what's called the Action Mapping Project. In essence, I work with residents, primarily youth, to think about the ways that they experience life in our city. So I'm local. I think I'm the only local talking today about experiences in Tacoma, and I'm very excited about this work. At home, I have five kids. I can count them on one hand. I feel good about that, though I see some babies in the audience, and it makes me want one more. Yeah, I really do enjoy the little ones. They're fun. I've been thinking about kids a lot over the last 15 years. My oldest is 15. And one of the things that I've come to is, and this is a realization that I don't think we always have as adults, is that we don't know everything. And I learn a lot from my kids. And that's really important because I try to make decisions for them, but I may be making the wrong decisions because they may not be understanding the world the way that I see the world. I'm getting old. They're getting older, but they're also quite young. I tell people when I talk to them one-on-one about the Action Mapping Project that what I'm interested to do is not plan for kids. I'm interested to plan with kids. Make decisions with our young people, not for our young people. I should have said a minute ago that, I'm just looking at the time, see how much I have, that I also, my background is in planning, urban planning, community development. I'm interested in grassroots level, very participatory ways of thinking about developing cities. So we've heard about grade level reading, which is very policy and in schools, and Jennifer is talking about big picture ideas about state of play and what our kids think in a meta way in our region. I'm interested to know what's happening on the ground. How do we improve the conditions of our neighborhoods so that we can increase quality of life, increase livability for our youth in particular? There aren't good answers to that question. You cannot go on the internet and learn where in Pierce County or where in the city of Tacoma you should be investing your $1 million to improve quality of life for kids. There's no data. Doesn't exist. You can learn quite a lot about demographics of people at the census tract or block group scale. You can learn quite a lot about traffic patterns or crime patterns, but we don't know anything about the lived experience of our youth. We don't know anything about our own lived experience, but we don't know anything about a lived experience of our youth. Let me back that up. You know about your lived experience, right? You know how you move through space, where you spend your time. You know that if I gave you $1 million, you would invest it right here to improve quality of life because that's a part of your activity, or that's part of your everyday life. I don't know that about you, and I can't access that information without talking to you. What we generally do to generate that kind of really actionable data is hold focus groups. You may have been a part of a focus group. You may be skilled at facilitating focus groups of people. And by a focus group, I mean, let's sit down with 10, 12, maybe 20 people and have a conversation about what you think about your neighborhood or what you think about the park. And those 10, 12, 20 people will say some things. And then you'll do, holy smokes, 5? And then you'll use inductive logic inductive reasoning to make decisions about what to invest in, about what the themes are that are coming out of that. That's called anecdotal evidence. And it's hard to drive policy. It's hard to influence decisions about $1 million with anecdotal evidence. So what I do, Ralph mentioned it earlier, I try to take those participatory practices and use them to generate big data. And by big data, I mean I'll talk to 1,500, 2,000, 5,000 kids, and I don't really talk to them. I ask them to draw on maps. So what you see here are some sketch maps that kids have drawn as a part of one of our community mapping projects. AMP goes into schools. We partner with Tacoma Public Schools. I saw Josh Garcia earlier today. He's been a great supporter of the program. Right now I'm in Franklin Pierce School District, working with kids at middle schools and high schools in Franklin Pierce. I ask kids to draw on maps. And I ask them to draw things like where they spend their time when they're not at school. Draw red lines on routes that you tend to avoid. What I'm teasing out here are their lived experiences. What we do with those lived experiences are surface opportunities. So the Action Mapping Project now, I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, it didn't seem like, but it's been like 10 years now in Tacoma that I've been doing this, and I started in the late 90s drawing maps with residents in Los Angeles. What we're doing now is a leap forward. We're systematizing the ability to produce big data about lived experience. Recently I worked with Tacoma's neighborhood planning folks to do some youth-informed planning in the McKinley Hill neighborhood. The project went well. We came out with 6 opportunity sites in McKinley Hill for investment. And the city of Tacoma is responding to that. They're investing in spaces based on youth input. That's called responsive planning. That's great. That's youth-informed planning. I'm currently in Franklin Pierce, like I said. So when Jennifer's talking about what kids are telling us they want to do, what sports they want to play, big question we have to ask is where? Where are we going to do that? Where are we going to invest in our parks? Where are we going to invest in active transportation networks? Where are we going to put sidewalks or bike trails, things like this? How are we going to get kids outside? We can't invest everywhere, right? We're going to invest somewhere. In Franklin Pierce, the school district led the process. They invited us in, found funding to bring us in, and we're now generating data for Parkland, which is fantastic. Parkland has been left off, I think, off the radar for a long time, far too long. Parkland, Spanaway, Midland, South Pierce County, that nebulous area. So we're down there talking to kids. The goal here is that we understand from a youth perspective what life is like, because we're trying to surface opportunities by talking to kids. Talk to thousands of kids, have them draw on maps. The results start to look like this. So what you're looking at here are some preliminary data coming out. This is after a few hundred participants. We're in classes for another 10 days down in Franklin Pierce. On the right-hand side, that blue cloud, those are routes that kids use in the Parkland area. So that's where they're spending their time. We're going to do an activity so you can kind of see how this feels to do as an adult. But what we know here are there are certain routes the kids are using heavily, right? They're telling us this. On the left-hand side are routes that kids tend to avoid, where they don't feel safe. If you're planning safe routes to schools, you kind of want to know this, right? You kind of want to know where are the kids feeling safe, not just what are they not using, but what would they avoid if they could, because that's what we need to improve. Similarly, I have a laser pointer. We've got areas. Areas where kids are spending time. I ask kids in the classroom, and I've spent a lot of time in Franklin Pierce recently. I say to them, take your blue pen. Well, if you're using a blue pen, we're now doing a lot of this on computers, and draw outlines around those parts of your neighborhood. And some do it on a computer, some do it on paper. Where you spend your time. Draw outlines around those parts of your neighborhood you tend to avoid. We want to know that if we're investing in an old brownfield and turning it into a community center, is that a great place to invest? Maybe, maybe not. The return on investment in any of those cases is going to be quality of life, right? We're not going to take, as a community, $1 million invested in a particular space and hope to see more money out of that. What we want to see are better lives for kids. At least that's where I'm at. I'm thinking about youth. As a community, we want all of our quality of life to improve. But if we want to think about kids in particular, then that's what we do. What we've got here, my purple sites. If you're a political organizer, you got your red states, your blue states. You're not going to try to flip a red state, make it blue, flip a blue state, make it red. You're looking for the purple states, right? Those states where a little bit of money can turn that state one way or the other. Those are my purple sites. These are the places in Parkland, Midland, Spanaway, where kids are. We know they're here. They're telling us they're here. These are the routes they're using. These are the areas they're spending time in. The white fuzz, those are areas they're spending time. You see a density there in the center, and I can talk about that later if you have questions. But those are where we want to invest. If you're going to drop a community center in Parkland, I'd recommend you probably do it somewhere around PLU, somewhere west of Pacific, north of 116th. There's a neighborhood there that you could activate. Sprinker, if we got Pierce Park's people here, Sprinker's an issue, a big issue for kids. They want a place to go, but they're not feeling great at Sprinker or in the forest next to it, which is an informal play space for many reasons since the pandemic. And that's interesting, and that's data that we can use to drive decisions. What's exciting to me about AMP is that it is starting to gain traction, and that we are starting to see agencies respond to what our kids have to say, and that's great. That's what we want. Starting this summer, AMP and Green Trike and other partner agencies will be releasing a map for you all to participate in. So there'll be a South Sound youth and family community mapping application that'll be available to you online on your phones. You can go and tell us about your lived experience as a family. You can tell your kids, share your lived experience. These data become generative. By the autumn of 2023, once we release the application, we should start seeing patterns resolve for the South Sound more broadly. The more participation we have, the better these data are to influence decisions. One of the things we want to see come out of events like this is action. We do want next year to be able to get together and say, look, these 3 things happened because we got together and shared ideas and committed to doing something. So this is something that AMP is going to commit to doing with Green Trike. We'll release a product and get it out there in the ether and let families and youth participate and see what comes of it.